and I'm the CEO of CAST, Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, located in Los Angeles, California. I'm here today to talk about a very important and urgent topic: continuing the services for survivors of human trafficking in the California budget. I'm joined with two very important advocates and champions of this cause: Mira Sorvino, award-winning actress and humanitarian and advocate for human rights for a very long time, the UN Goodwill Ambassador to combat human trafficking as well, and California State Assemblymember Mark Gonzalez, who is the majority whip leader in the state legislature and represents the 54th district, which encompasses downtown Los Angeles, Pico Union, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, historic Filipino town, Chinatown, Koreatown, and more.
Yep.
So very diverse community. So welcome, both of you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mira, for making time today. I know we all have our schedules are crazy, but we all can agree that this is an important conversation that we definitely need to have. And we want to make sure that California remains that beacon of hope.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your leadership on this issue.
Great. Well, let's get started. I have a few questions that I know all of the viewers of this will be wondering. Assemblymember Gonzalez, please tell us more specific information about this budget request, and also tell us why you felt compelled to champion this particular request that serves survivors of human trafficking.
Well, thank you so much, Kay, and thank you so much for your time. And again, thank you, Mira, for making this a priority. This is not an issue that is a stranger to me. I was the district director for San Miguel Santiago for the last 10 years. I've worked in this district for 15 years. I preface it because this is the epicenter of where human trafficking continues to exist every single day. My district is not unique, but we do know that statistics show that many folks get dropped off in our particular area, whether they're coming from San Diego, whether they're coming from other parts through other means of transportation. But we know, we've seen nationally that folks who are bringing people in this area, we need to help them. We need to give them a second chance. And so what I've done and what we've done in the past, the first time getting across the finish line as my capacity as district director, is we're requesting $30 million from the state to continue to access these services over the next 3 years. So $10 million each of those years. It's important for us that we understand that this is modern day slavery. It's important for us to take away the fact that, it's not just happening to women, it's happening to children, it's happening to men, it's happening all across the board. And so organizations like CAST and friends like Mira and so many others who've contributed to highlighting and flagging this important issue, we got to get this across the finish line. And many folks know what's happening at the national level. We are going to see cuts all across the board, no matter who it is. Nobody's going to be able to escape those kind of cuts. And so California has to continue to remain that hope, that beacon of hope. And as California goes, so goes the nation. And that's why I always like to tell people we are the West Coast, we are the best coast. And getting those dollars helps to save lives, because CAST is a lifeline for human trafficking in this area and gets people the services and access that they need.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember. That's great. And it funds 31 organizations, I've heard, up and down the state, which is incredible, right? So
Yes.
It means every corner of the state, survivors of trafficking have a place to escape to, be safe, and get the help they need. It's incredible. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for your leadership on this. We appreciate you so much. And Mira, I have a question for you, because as a longtime activist on this issue, you've met with a lot of survivors yourself. I remember introducing you to the first survivors that you met. And so you've seen firsthand the transformational impact that comprehensive services has for them. So tell us why that's important to you, and tell us why the state should pass this budget.
Yeah, so it is true that the first two survivors of human trafficking I ever met were through CAST, your organization, Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, and their stories and the way they had been treated as lower than animals just completely galvanized my resolve to fight this terrible crime, this terrible violation of human rights and dignity and safety. And it became a huge part of my life work. I have a sort of parallel career to my acting career, which is advocacy to fight human trafficking. And since meeting those two survivors, I've interviewed about 100 across the globe. since 2005. And I've been working with the UN since 2009 as their goodwill ambassador. Now I'm also on the UN Voluntary Trust Fund for victims of trafficking in persons, for which I believe Kath was also a beneficiary a few years back.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
I was part of the effort years ago that got the first iteration of this 30 million for 3 years of emergency step up after the COVID pandemic to increase services for the increased volume of need that we saw. Just the number of human trafficking cases across the state, across the globe are growing. The need is greater. And if we don't get this continuation, this is just basically another 3 years of the same that we've done. I don't know what's going to happen to these survivors. I don't know whether these survivors are going to stay survivors or whether they will not even be able to exit their trafficking situations because there is nowhere to turn. There isn't capacity to take them in, to help them rebuild their lives. And they will stay victims of trafficking, and they will continue to be abused and continue to live a life of unimaginable torture. I mean, it's really the worst thing that could befall a person is to be trafficked, whether it's labor or sex trafficking. And California sees much of both. So this is so important. It literally is life-saving, life-rebuilding funds that without this 30 million across 3 years, those 31 organizations in California will be out of luck. Their capacity to raise that sort of money from private, civil society is going to be very, very difficult. And many, many people will fall through the cracks because there simply won't be the capacity to serve them. And as I'm saying, we're seeing nationwide cuts. We're seeing, a lack of interest at the federal level in the plights of people such as these. And we need to come in and be our own heroes in California and say no to human trafficking in California and make this a safe haven for people who have the courage to try and rebuild their lives with our help.
That's so well said, Mira. I agree. And I heard today that the state actually served, through this funding, served nearly 25,000 survivors. 25,000. That's a lot of people. And that doesn't even include last year because the numbers are not yet calculated. So the impact of this funding is amazing. It's incredible. And so you mentioned California as a leader, Mira. So Mark, Assemblyman Gonzalez, can you tell us, why do you think the state of California should be a leader on this issue? Why should California be a leader in ending human trafficking and supporting the victims?
No, and I appreciate the question. And thank you again, Mira, for flagging those extremely key points. Look, California has the highest reported cases of human trafficking in the nation, and making continued funding for services vital, which is why, we have to be the leaders in that effort. Without that dedicated support, survivors face significant barriers to recovery, to community safety, which is jeopardized. And just in 2024 alone, your organization, CAST, a Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, has been that leader on that, but also recognize the fact that because California is the largest human trafficking service provider, you've received more crisis calls from survivors and their family members than any full calendar year in the agency's history. To my understanding, nearly 90% of survivors of CAST reported not even having access to those necessities. And over 100% of new clients who disclosed their housing statuses were homeless at the intake alone. Additionally, your attorneys have completed well over close to 900 intakes with new clients and provided over close to 10,000 legal services to so many folks. But what CAST provides is not just simply the intake. You have 24/7 crisis response, and we have to have that, especially nowadays with everything that we are seeing going on at the national level. Emergency and transitional shelter. That's extremely important. We are in a homeless crisis. And how do we address that? You guys are at the forefront of these conversations. You provide rental assistance. My district is 85% renters. I'm the 5th poorest district in the state. You guys provide rental assistance. You provide counseling, case management, legal services, and the list goes on and on. So your dollars, those dollars go 100% back into making sure that we have access to this, because we cannot allow California to continue to expand and not protect those survivors, especially if it's against their will. And this happens all over, and particularly my district, whether it's in karaoke bars, in the fashion district. There's so many parts of my district where this is being affected. And so, California needs to not only just lead on that effort, but has to continue to step up, because this problem is not going to stop in 3 years. So we have to keep making these funding requests. But you guys showcase the fact that those dollars get immediately put to work. We get people access to those services that they need, translational services. Translation is especially key as well, because sometimes the victims of human trafficking don't often speak English as their first language. And so you guys provide that to them. You provide hope, you provide faith, and you provide people who are here against their will a chance to live. And that's what's extremely important about this funding request. And so I appreciate all of the work that you were doing. Some of my colleagues are aware of this. We want to continue to remind them of this. I know some of your colleagues are here in Sacramento, and I see them and I thank them for their service, because you guys are changing the lives of people you'll probably never meet. And that's extremely important.
Oh, thank you for that, Mark. That's amazing. And we have actually recipients of the direct services programs testifying with staff and all of the other organizations funded through this funding as well today. So let's hope that it goes well. My last question for really is both of you is, what do you want the viewers of this to do now? Like, why is this request for continuation of funding important now more than ever?
Mark, like how ordinary citizen in the state legislature to pass? How does everybody grassroots now kind of become the wave that pushes this over the finish line?
Look, I think it's important for us decisions are made by those who show up. And I want to be very clear about the fact that you elect legislators to have your back. You elect your legislators to make sure your community is clean. Look up who your assembly member is, look up who your senator is, make a courtesy call to say, I heard about this. I know that our beloved friend and actress and community activist, Mira Sorvino, is involved in this. But more importantly, we need to make sure that the state of California passes this. So calling your legislators, telling them this is an important issue for you. There's the funding request from Assemblymember Gonzalez and a number of others who are signing on to this funding request, and say how it's important for you to prioritize survivors and making sure that we face this issue head on, but we face it with the tools that it's necessary for California to sustain this organization, but to keep the dollars here for the good work that you all are doing.
And I think, people, is there a website where they can go to find who exactly is their representative?
Yeah, if you put your Find My Representative, if you're accessible to Google or any sort of a search on your phone, because we have so much access to technology nowadays, you just put in your, Find My Assembly Member. Very quickly it pops up. You type in your address where you're registered to vote, and it puts a whole bunch of other information that you need, like access to city services. But it just keep on that link, but it puts your senator and it puts your assembly member. Call, leave a message. Someone will answer the call, whether it's the district or the Capitol office. And look, I served as staff for well over 15 years. We document that. That's really important for our members to hear from their constituents about what matters to them.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that people understand, once again, the urgency of this, because when we talk about survivors, we talk about people who have lived through something and it's in their past, but literally these organizations are the gatekeepers to the possibility of it being in their. Otherwise, people get re-trafficked, or there's no place for them to go, and they stay trafficked. And the life of a trafficked person is absolute hell. I can tell you, survivors, whether they are labor trafficking survivors or sex trafficking survivors, they have no autonomy. They are in fear for their physical safety and certainly the physical safety of all their loved ones. And they live a brutal life. And that's what's going on under our noses.
Yep.
Fund these tremendous service organizations that are doing the work of the angels on the ground. We are fine with those people continuing to live in this subhuman existence full of violence, rape, sometimes murder, beatings, fear, just every human right snuffed out, and people just enslaved for the profit motive. I mean, that's what it is, pure and simple. It is modern. And we as Californians, we can't sit by and say that we don't care what's happening under our noses. We have to care. We have to care. We have to build a thriving culture of people who've gotten out of this to continue advocating it, continue shining the light on the problem to prevent it, rather than just turning our back on these people when they need them up.
I just want to kind of close out to say, you know, and particularly because we are both in Los, well, I'm in Sacramento now, but my district is in Los Angeles. I know you're in Los Angeles. We all just went through the fires together, and I know that as a result of that, and many people you know and that I know and everyone knows were affected somehow. The post sort of fire communication, and those dollars are being fought for as well, is about healing and about rebuilding. And that's what we have to do with survivors. We have to make sure that CAST, who is there from all the number of organizations across the state, are helping these survivors to heal and to rebuild. And this funding is not just an investment in survivors, but it's the safety and well-being for all of those here in California.
And
Well said.
It's such an enormous possibility. And I have come across, I think, even in the early days when I worked on this, a sort of a doubt as to whether if someone who has been through this darkness can really ever fully rebound. And the answer is ecstatically yes. You know, people are so capable of reclaiming the life that they were meant for, you know, in their own hearts, you know, by our, you know, our God, our creator. Like, everyone has the capacity to live out that life rather than this terrible one that's thrust upon them. And so no one is a lost cause. And this money is giving them back their lives and helping them lead a self-led, beautiful life. I've seen such heroics among the people who have been exited from trafficking with the help of organizations like CAST, who spend so much energy trying to help others exit trafficking and escape and face the light of day on their own terms. And it's a beautiful endeavor, and it basically says we believe in the capacity of human beings to rise above, and we are part of their story. And this is something we cannot turn our back on.
Well, I know we have to wrap up, but I just want to thank you both for your leadership. And thank you for your work on this. The work began yesterday. We're doing it today, but I just want to thank you all for, you know, you made a choice to take a chance to make change. I really appreciate you both making this a priority.
And we appreciate you. We appreciate you too, Mark. Thank you for your leadership and commitment. Both of you are incredible, beautiful human beings. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.